अस्सलाम वालेकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि व बारकातहू। आप ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं कम्युनिटी इंसाइट कम्युनिटी प्रोग्राम. You're welcome. I'm welcoming everybody who's joining us and listening to Radio Apni Awaz. Radio Apni Awaz can be on Dub plus Leeds, Bradford, and Birmingham, and plus on the other platforms that you can listen to us on. So today's topic is the year in review of Kashmir, and we want to talk about community focus in the UK and building for the future. So these are the three topics that we've got for today, and I'm delighted to have Brother Rizwan Hussain, who's joining us from London. So we'll welcome him on. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum Assalam. Abdul Jabbar, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. And how about yourself?
I'm fine. London is still here, and we just long to be reunited. You need to come to Bradford, man. Honestly, it's been a long time.
Bradford's not going anywhere. Yeah, so
No, it's not. No.
we've got a lot of work to do in Bradford and elsewhere as in Birmingham, Leeds, whichever areas our community resides in. So what we'll discuss, we'll start off with, without further ado, we'll start off with the year in review of Kashmir. So the main stories are from when in January, when India protests the UK diplomats' visit to Pakistan-controlled Kashmir, which is known as Azad Kashmir. So Azad Kashmir, this visit that took place, the Indian government strongly protested against this visit. So what's your take on that?
Well, it's a consistent message and line. When we talk about policies and policies of nations, they follow a particular line and follow a particular objective. So when we talk about foreign policy, Pakistan has a foreign policy, India has a foreign policy. The Indian foreign policy on Kashmir is to bring the whole of Kashmir and be fully integrated into its own state. Pakistan has the opposite policy, which have Kashmir integrated within it. And this is where the twain shall not meet, and it doesn't matter how many times that this issue comes up. Since 1947, this has been carrying on. So the Indian side has to project that, look, any other country has to follow its line, which is rather surprising when the actual reality has been on the ground that predominantly Muslim area isn't given the right to self-determination, and on the Indian side, which is under default occupation in reality and isolation. Yet when some diplomat goes into the Pakistani side, it's a real big issue. So I think the major thing is that for each, this is a contested area, obviously we know that from history, but the fact is that each side needs to put forward a story that they have, and that story is their view of that story, and wanting people to want to push forward its power. So when the Indian government protests about such things, it wants Britain to acknowledge that the issue of Kashmir is India's issue, and there should be no respect or given to the rights of any other entity in that respect.
Yeah, and moving on to February, we had the Kashmir Solidarity being observed in Pakistan, Azad Kashmir, and and throughout the world by the Kashmiri community. Kashmiri Muslim community have observed that the 5th of February as Kashmir Solidarity Day, and so have the rulers of Pakistan and they have been doing this for several decades. Decades we've been told that the only way to obviously get the freedom for Kashmir is to go to the UN, and this is what I think the President Arif Alvi and caretaker Prime Minister Anwar Haq Kakar in the separate messages, they basically reiterated the same position. So Pakistan has been, and the Kashmiris have been observing this Kashmir Solidarity Day, which is to support the Kashmiri cause. And the United Nations, the United Nations, they've been going to them for several decades, and no notice has been taken. So what else can we do?
Well, I think facing reality might be a good start. When we're actually seeing the reality of international relations, if in several decades it hasn't worked, then we need to sort of reflect. When something doesn't work, I'm not in any way questioning sincerity. People are actually coming out and marking this because it's really important to give that information out there. That's on one level. So having these days, they are not, of in themselves, they are not a negative because they keep that issue alive. They give information to the wider population and other entities, other countries about that. But the point is that Kashmir is a issue that has been going on since 1947, and decades of these things are not producing a solution. And I don't think there's anybody on this earth, in fact, that would say the Kashmir issue is nearer to getting resolved in a way that is for the self-determination of the people, because self-determination was apparently supposed to be there from the inception, but it's never actually happened because of the political wrangling that's ensued. So the question is, if we want to, we can have these days, and it's good to have these days, it's good to have this projection. It's very good to have that thing out in the open. But what is actually going to change this? Is the UN going to change it? And the UN in the world, what has it actually got the ability to change if prominent major states don't put their backing behind the UN? Of itself, the United Nations, even though we call the post-Second World War a rules-based world order that developed, that has been under increasingly attack. Even if you don't accept the word attack, that is challenged by the agendas of the major powers. So the permanent members of the UN Security Council have a major impact on anything that happens, and it's just, even in terms of criminal court issues and all these other issues that come up from time to time, the predominant solutions are when the Security Council members want to back a solution that is in their interest. The issue of Kashmir, unfortunately, I doubt it could be resolved by the UN, because the UN intrinsically of itself does not have the power to resolve. It has to go to leading nations, the leading, most powerful nations, and international relations is what the leading nations, they decide, and that pecking order going down. That's the reality of international relations, and until we accept that and we move on, and that's the reality, we're not going to get anywhere in this issue.
So moving on to in March we had Modi visit in Srinagar, first time since the autonomy was removed in 2019. So basically he addressed the crowd in one of the stadiums and told that this is the progress that's going to be done is going to be. He blamed the previous Kashmir Assembly or the autonomy that was given to it, and this was a promise that he made across India that he will remove the Article 370 and 35A. So that was basically what he said, and this was the year of the elections in Pakistan and India, and he basically So basically, both sides went to elections, and unfortunately, unfortunately, the military that's present in India is not allowing any journalists or observers to go in to observe what is actually happening in Kashmir. What we are seeing is insurgency taking place, where the Kashmiris have been since 1989, I believe, that they have been coming out and leading an insurgency against the military of India. So that basically the people are not the people of Kashmir or the occupied Indian Kashmir. They did not. They did not accept this merger or the union, their status to be taken away. Um, and we saw in Pakistan as well that the Gilgit Baltistan and the Azad Kashmir, this is going to be like become part of Pakistan. Both of these countries are somehow, obviously we know what the plans are for the region by America, which is to counter China and use the Indians to counter China. And for this, the only country that could stand up to India was Pakistan, but they have used a restraint policy and normalization to since the Musharraf era, the 20 years of stopping the support for Kashmiri groups and Kashmir. So that side, the Kashmiris have been demonstrating. They've been out on the street, especially in Srinagar. It's an uprisings that have been taking place. Not a lot of people know this because there's a media blackout. So.
Yeah, that is the issue. I mean, you can't. I mean, you see a projection of Kashmir being used by both sides. In fact, not just India. But if you look, let's take the Indian side, since you mentioned it in this question. The reality is that since Article 370 was revoked, it's been a prison.
Yes.
I mean, it's still an open prison. I mean, there's no other way of describing it. Internet gets turned off. Kashmiris are muted.
Yeah.
And this is the issue that if you're, if you look at the projection, if you look at the what is called the Godi media, apparently India has been Kashmir is reintegrated as part of India, or the safe, and it's a wonderful place to be. But if you look at the reality, if the communication isn't available, journalists can't go in and out. When you go there, the travel and restrictions are incredible. Restrictive travel bans. If you go look to the Amnesty International articles, it's just very, very clear. I mean, it's from day one. The 370, if it was the revoking of the special status and full integration, then you would expect there to be a free flowing of people in and out, but the people there giving that right of self-determination, but also the right to speak. When that right is clearly not there, not present, then that's an issue that the Indian government's policy has actually failed. Having said that, on the Pakistan side, there's also unrest on the Pakistan side, whereas because of the issues with the rising of prices and protests that have occurred there. So neither side of this reality are happy. And you could be argued that the Indian side population is more unhappy, but it's a low bar as far as unhappiness and restrictions on the people. So this whole area of Kashmir, there's dissent. Dissent is repressed, and the Indian and the authorities have no solution to this problem. The solution is just keep repressing, just keep it and keep the people down. Restrictions. So I mean things like revoking journalists' visas, things like I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
it's
ne-
and
ne-
are able to participate in decision making. Yeah.
yeah. The military. Look, we've got reports that the Navy commandos in motorboats patrol the German relay that snakes through the city. Most schools in the city were shut for the day, and the authorities called for government employees to attend the rally. Omar Abdullah, the former chief minister of Indian Kashmir, accused the government of organizing buses to bring in crowds to attend the rally, alleging that almost none would be attending willingly. So this is this is how they're trying to build a picture that there's some kind of support for Modi's government, and what's going on with the military occupation, which is you've got 90,000 military personnel there, and
I
you've
mean,
got
it doesn't sound like a democracy, does it? I mean,
no. I mean it's
I mean, openness, freedom, expression. I mean, these are supposed to be democratic um, realities, where, rule of law, accountability, it's due process. I mean, it just doesn't sit. The reality doesn't bear that out. I mean, passports getting confiscated, um, photojournalists not allowed to report. Um, People put on anti-transportation lists.
yeah. So just going on to basically, I think we mentioned about the unrest in Pakistan as well, about the recent protests that were behind that. I think there was a report by Amnesty International. Where before we go on to that, there was Indian, and the title of the Amnesty International was India authorities most end repression of dissent in Jammu and Kashmir, and it's named Akar Patel, chair of board at Amnesty International India. He said the people.
Akar Patel, chair of board of Amnesty International in India. Yes.
Yes. He said, and I quote: "The people of Jammu and Kashmir must be able to exercise their right to fully participate in the decision making about their future in the run-up to, during, and after elections." Uh,
That's actually. I mean, if you just break down that statement, exercise their right to fully participate decision making about their future in the run. That's before the election. So before an election, what should happen? What should happen is people are free to associate, interact with each other in order to see, in order to weigh up issues. During an election, that's before an election happens, so they have an idea. Civil societies are energized, etc. And then during an election, you'd expect a similar thing to be more energized. And after the election, this is so there's a continuation of that thing where people are engaged in a process. But when this doesn't happen,
yeah, he's also I think they took the Indian authorities are using arbitrary restriction and punitive actions to create a climate of fear in Jammu and Kashmir. Anyone daring to speak out, whether to criticize the government or to stand up for human rights, faces a clampdown on their rights of freedom of expression and association, and are unable to move freely within and outside the country, said Akar Patel, chair of board at Amnesty International India. So the passports confiscations, revocations, and delay in issuance. So if you've revoked the 370, why are you not allowing people the right to have have passports, and delaying the issuance of passports?
well, I can't answer for the Indian government because it's like I don't know which planet they're on. But for example, Masad Zara, a Kashmiri photojournalist, several international awards, had their passport revoked. No, so this isn't some extremist or some sort of conspiracy theorist. This is somebody who's won several national awards, international awards, and is a journalist, and that's the job of this person. And suddenly, oh, And she quotes, "They have already made the decision to revoke my passport, so responding is futile. I'm essentially trapped. I cannot leave the United States, nor can I return to India. I've had to self-censor my thoughts, avoid anything that might raise attention on social media, but the hardest part is being separated from my family and able to continue my work in Kashmir. I feel a deep responsibility to be the voice of my people who are currently voiceless. There's no stories coming out of Kashmir anymore." So this quote, it just brings out that reality for the people. And when we have this sort of a soft power narrative from the Modi regime saying, "Look, Kashmir and this is wonderful, and you can now go there, you can buy property there, and you can be a part of this, and it's the best place to be," and it's like it's just the reality doesn't match. So the question is if it's how aware are we to reflect upon the information that we're getting and realize when people are not being given the information, because without information coming out, we've got a problem, and it just goes on and on and on. And freedom of movement, I mean, last time I checked, yes, in the Indian constitution, there's a freedom of movement.
Is it?
And with bringing Kashmir into the rest, you should be free to go there. So by definition, have you then give them remove special status, allow people to go, and then don't do it, and that's not freedom of movement. It's just quite obvious.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like it's a very interesting hypocrisy.
Yeah, so we move on to on the 27th October 2024, the Ministry of Affairs, the government of Pakistan sent out a communique saying Pakistan reaffirms solidarity with the people of Jammu and Kashmir on the 77th anniversary of the arrival of Indian troops in Jammu and Kashmir. The government and the people of Pakistan reiterate their unwavering solidarity with the people of Kashmir. In the messages on this solemn occasion, the President, Prime Minister, and Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister of Pakistan have reaffirmed the nation's steadfast moral, political, and diplomatic support for the Kashmiri people's right to self-determination. So this is just
not very effectively.
Not very effective.
Not very effectively, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if it's after this many, I mean, it's not. I mean, when you're judged, the words are a part of diplomacy. I fully accept that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you say is a part of your projection as a country, as a nation. Of course, that's right. But then that just words, and this word salad about Kashmir, the new issue, and agitating the emotions of the people that we're still thinking about this, but then not actually taking the steps to actually resolve. That's the issue.
Yeah. So basically, the Kashmiri groups, in Azad Kashmir, there's so many Kashmiri groups, and in Pakistan as well, we've got groups, those of Kashmiris that are living in Pakistan, and the Pakistanis as well. How can they support? I mean, at the moment, it looks very, like you said, it looks very unlikely, not being able to project their influence very well. What is your suggestion to these Kashmiri leaderships and the Pakistani government, or basically?
I think there has to be a change in tack here. And there has to be an admission that this 70-year-old policy hasn't worked. We've not gone forward. And we are not going forward. It requires fresh thinking for in terms of the Pakistani state, or the military state of Pakistan, because whether we like it or not, Pakistan is controlled by the military. And the people need to impose that, say, look, we need to resolve this issue. Going to the more than 70 years since 77 years since this issue started. It'll be another 77 years, and my grandchildren and great grandchildren, your great grandchildren will be coming here and saying on on programs and saying exactly the same thing. So the question is not going to change with the current policy. First you have to admit it's not working. Having a Kashmir Day is good for you. Rejecting is good, but there has to be a solution, and that solution is only, in my humble opinion, Pakistan taking responsibility for those areas of Kashmir and moving the thought forward and actually resolving it. Now, I'm not that is an interaction between Pakistan and India that has to occur. I'm not saying that they shouldn't communicate. What I am saying is that there has to be a solution which is in unison with the actual people of Kashmir. Because if they are not, if they're getting isolated in one place and isolated in the other, then it's just the same. We're just continuing the same thing. You can't, whatever solution is, it has to be, first of all, civil society in both areas needs to be open to actually express itself, and then which isn't happening. It's happening a bit more on the Pakistan side, but much less, even hardly at all, on the Indian side. But civil society needs to give the room to actually move forward and decide what it wants, and that needs to be respected. But when that's not respected, we have the problem which we have now, basically that each side has decided it just doesn't get resolved.
Yeah, so we'll just move on to the unrest that's taken place in Pakistani administered Kashmir. What's behind the recent protests that have been taking place? So basically, we'll just finish on that and then we'll go for a break.
I think there are systemic problems inside Kashmir, where economic problems, which are again not resolved. So what's happening is that residents in Pakistan, Kashmir, their demands, legitimate demands, aren't being given any voice. So the Pakistani state again hasn't really been communicating and offered the kind of rights of representation to the extent that the citizens deserve. Now, what that actually means is that if you have a severe economic deprivation, the price increases, and then the job of a government is to manage the bureaucracy and ensure resources are spent on the public. And when that doesn't happen, a civil society will rise up, and that's what's happening. And it doesn't matter whether you're the same religion or not. That civil society will rise up and say, look, you're not dealing with the problems effectively. So the demands of these protests are lower prices of basic foodstuffs. Also, there's another issue in Pakistan and area is the cost of electricity, which is a fundamental right that the people have. That fundamental electricity, which is created by Mangla Dam, that is not given at a price which is acceptable. So a local dam itself, Mangla Dam, the price of that going to the electricity going to Kashmir doesn't give the local population the benefit that they require or the benefit that they deserve. So obviously, when that happens, then there's going to be an issue in the wider population.
Yeah, so I mean, even the heavy-handedness that was used by the the Pakistani administered Kashmir, the Azad Kashmir government basically went for we'll go for a break now. So we'll come back. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to everyone joining. We've been discussing about Kashmir. Just continuing on from the unrest in Pakistan administered Kashmir, what's behind the recent protests. The flour prices and the electricity prices, actually the government had to concede to the protesters, and which even led to 3 people being shot by the Rangers and killed when they were in Muzaffarabad. And this has basically created tensions and So the Joint Action Committee, which is the organization that's been set up by the Kashmiri is in Pakistan, in Azad Kashmir. They were very happy that the food prices and the electricity prices they've been taken down, and also I think the ordinance that was passed to stop people from protesting. Even that demand has been achieved. So the protest did work to achieve these goals, and unfortunately, the shooting by the Rangers was basically the killing. This is looking like it's going to make things a bit worse for and so we should remind the Pakistan Azad Kashmir government not to use heavy-handed tactics against the peaceful protesters. So this JAC, Jammu Azad Kashmir Joint Action Committee, was marching towards Muzaffarabad since May 11th, the capital of the autonomous region bordering India, over demands including subsidized food and electricity. The situation, with the economy is not only bad in Azad Kashmir, the people in Pakistan are suffering from this as well. So how do we deal with?
It's an open secret. Actually, it's like I mean, most areas in Pakistan and for ordinary people, basics are a problem, and it's not something that the government has tackled for many years. And every year, every time there's an election, they say, "Oh, things will get better." They get better for a very small amount of while, and then they go worse than they were before. And it's just a constant. It doesn't matter which party comes in. This situation is throughout Pakistan. It just things get worse and worse, and the spending power of your daily wage is worse, and then corruption just increases, and people are just realize it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. They vote for one politician, he makes them, they get in. Things are okay for a little while, and then we go back, and it's just like one step, 2 steps forward, 15 steps back, and then and things are worse and worse. And if you look at foreign debt in Pakistan and you look at inflation, I mean, it's like even our own relatives, they there's no person that you ever speak to in Pakistan that says things are getting better. In terms of the corruption, in terms of the inflation, and it's a basic that even from power and even from basic food stuff, it just gets worse and worse. There is, and people are just resigned to it. There's nothing, and so these things in Kashmir are just even worse because the issues are there that the government should be giving the people and providing solutions. They are tardy. They are just as corrupt. They are corrupt, and they don't want to. They're not willing to make developments for fairness or for justice.
Yeah, some problems. I mean, this. We've got problems that we've got separatists calling for separation from Pakistan now, and even in Balochistan and the region. There's a lot of chaos that's taking place. On the we see on the Afghan border there's basically a problem there. How can the Pakistani government deal with these problems, or if there is a new government, any new government, or what?
This is. I mean, it's amazing that the state needs to engage with the population in a positive way.
Yeah.
You have a young population, an educated population, a talented population, and you don't engage them in a way. I mean, look, in Europe, we have falling birth rates like there's no tomorrow. And in Pakistan, you have this young population who wants to work, and you don't give them jobs, and you don't give them a way to develop. And what do you think is going to happen?
Most of the
Okay,
people,
it's
mo-
not rocket
mo-
science.
most of the
time,
people,
you have young people.
yeah, young people
that
just
want
want
to
to
leave,
leave Pakistan brain drain
the
taking
fact that
place.
you can't provide that
Yeah.
as a military, as a military. I mean, if you look at the countries that have strong militaries, they are able to create industrialize because they have control. But here, Pakistan only seems to know how to make plots and make housing developments.
That's obviously the sad reality. I mean, obviously this is a bitter reality. If people are listening into Radio Opniwal, you can ring in and join and make any questions or comments. 01274 271 787 is the number. So, is there anything else that we've basically not covered for 2024? I'm just trying to work out anything else that we've left out.
I think it's more of the same. I think we've had more of the same that we've.
Yeah, more of the same. More of the same has happened, and basically we'll come back in a bit to discuss the community focus in UK and the preparations and the building for the future.